Next, let's kick it on down to Columbia, where, man, quite the setting down there for the Gamecocks in Shane Beamer's second season, roaming the sidelines for the South Carolina Gamecocks. And the major takeaway, everybody wanted to see Spencer Rattler. I think, if you're being honest, he's everything I said he was. He is a major upgrade for you. But at the same time, again, we're not trying to make too many takeaways from a spring game, but I think if you're being honest with yourself, you saw far from a Heisman candidate in this offense. And maybe that's more of a question of Marcus Satterfield and the weapons that Spencer Rattler has to work with. And maybe it's just, he's just a couple weeks into the system. But major upgrade, but let's pump the brakes on all the Heisman talk. You won 7 games without him. The goal should be winning 8, 9, possibly 10 games this season. And based on what he showed, he has got the arm talent to potentially get you there. So that was kind of the big thing that I think I along with everybody else, wanted to see is how does Spencer Rattler look? Does his arm live up to the hype? And it certainly did. And the other guy that's living up to the spring hype, someone we've talked a lot about on this show, Marshawn Lloyd. Big time 4th down conversion, just juking guys out of his shoe. Beamer said on the broadcast, Lloyd was not 100% last season. I think that was evident if you watched him play, but they think they got that 100% Marshawn Lloyd now to go with a Christian Beal-Smith, who was a solid running back for Wake Forest. And, maybe the biggest takeaway from the South Carolina spring game, Juju Mcdowell, he looks like one hell of a third running back for you, and that's before you even get to Rashad Amos and Lavoisier Carroll. South Carolina could potentially be loaded at the running back position based on what we saw from Marshawn Lloyd and Juju McDowell and Christian Beal-Smith here in the Garnet and Black spring game here. I also thought, we didn't get a ton of them, but the true freshman quarterback, Braden Davis, I thought he looked very solid. Not to say that he's anywhere near ready to compete in the SEC, but I think he got something promising in the true freshman. And whenever Spencer Rattler leaves, Luke Doty, maybe that next guy, but I think Davis has got a bright future in Columbia. At least that was just my initial read on what we saw from the young freshman. I thought the James Madison transfer, Juice Wells, number 3, he looked like one of the better receivers on the field. He certainly passed the eye test. And Chad Tyrell, how about Chad Tyrell? Didn't play much last year. I don't think he played at all last year, they said. Converted receiver to a tight end, made a big touchdown in the game. That's going to be something to watch. Mitch Jeter, competing for the starting kicker job, nailed a 47-yard field goal. He looked like he may be your next starting kicker there, replacing the great Parker White, who's, of course, the all-time leading scorer in South Carolina Gamecocks history. And if you missed the game, it was a little bit of game action mixed in with drills, so it was not your typical spring game, but those were my major takeaways from the South Carolina spring game. Overall, you can see that the biggest thing, I guess, was just the energy, the enthusiasm, this fan base, because like I said, at Alabama, they didn't show up. Some of these others, they didn't show up. But at South Carolina, they sure as hell did. They're fired up for the future there in Columbia. But they're going to have to do it without 4 players because Monday, after the spring came to conclusion, we had E.J. Jenkins and Eric Shaw, both tight ends, as well as defensive lineman Devonta Davis and Jakeem Green enter the NCAA transfer portal, which, not a big surprise. This is what's going to happen around not only the SEC, but college football. Got to get into that portal by May 1. Spring coming to an end. They're probably not happy with, their position on the depth chart, so they got to find somewhere else to play. But I just wanted to make that note that, I would imagine South Carolina's going to be making some additions, but they lost 4 players here to the transfer portal on Monday, exiting the spring.
Shane, from an overall offensive look, how much of the playbook would you say you guys used tonight, and how do you think Spencer played?
I thought Spencer did well. Operated. We had the play clocks going and really didn't have any personnel issues or play clock issues. We're pretty clean from that standpoint. Certainly we weren't showing everything, but it wasn't like we were limiting a whole lot either. There was nothing that we said offensively that we weren't going to do, like formation-wise or personnel groupings. There was nothing that I told Clayton, hey, don't blitz us or don't do this. I mean, he could run whatever he wanted, and there's certainly things that he didn't show defensively, some packages that we've used in the past and some new things we have. And certainly there's some things offensively that we didn't do a ton of, but, it was wide open if you wanted it to be. But I thought Spencer did a good job, made some throws and had some receivers and tight ends and running backs make some catches for him too.
Shane, obviously we didn't have the opportunity to see Marshawn this spring in the 14 practices that you have, but some of the videos that did come out, it looked like he showed that explosiveness, and it looked like he showed that tonight. What can you say just about his mental toughness, trying to come back from that injury, and how pleased does that make you feel, especially heading into fall camp now?
Yeah, really fired up about him and the spring that he's had. Obviously, highly recruited coming out of high school. 2020, he gets injured. He may tell you that he was healthy and 100% last year. I don't think so. I mean, he to me never looked like the Marshawn, 100% Marshawn. But this spring, he's been on I've said it before to you guys. He's been on a mission and very purposeful about the way that he's worked since he came back in January. And I think he looks faster. I think he looks more explosive. We're continuing to emphasize to him what a load he is and how hard he is to tackle. And continuing to get north-south and run through people as well. But he's worked on his route running. He's worked on his pass catching. Thought he's had a really good spring. And, and he was out there tonight, the way we broke up the teams, he was out there with that second-team offensive line. But, he wouldn't never complain. He just went out there and just ran the football. That was good to see.
So with crowd attendance, we have 20,671. Now, there's a lot of social media chatter right now. They're saying that they think the number was larger. So I wanted to ask you, from your standpoint, do you think there were more than 20,000 people out there?
1 billion%. I don't know. I don't know who said that. You? I don't know who said 20,000. There was more than 20,000 in there. I can promise you that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.